Hey everybody, thanks for coming out today. Today we're going to take a look at a concept called the vitality curve. The vitality curve was something that a lot of organizations use, but it was popularized by Jack Welch back in the 80s when he was the CEO of General Electric, the larger conglomerate that had all the subsidiary companies most of us are familiar with. At that time, his goal was to ensure that they were always improving the performance of the talent that they had, and you'd have to rate your talent. Kind of performance development and annual review type concepts would come into play here. And what he would have everyone do is kind of create a graph like you see here with an X and a Y axis. And then the Y axis, we put in our number of employees for your division, for your department, for your company or whatnot. And then on the X axis, you would start to map their performance, both being low on where the X and Y intersect and high away from those particular conjunction points. And at that point, we just basically draw a graph, a bell curve graph. So a bell curve would be high in the middle, low on the originating end, so where X and Y meet, and high on the far end of the X graph, the X axis, sorry. And at that point, we'd have our bell curve. So it's a standard bell curve type mentality where you take a look at where the most people would land and you start to try and manipulate it that way. And instead of manipulating, what we do is we take that bell curve and we start to map our employees into it. So everybody that would be employed by our group would be in the blue underneath the green lines. So they'd either be kind of low performers, they'd either be high performers, or they'd be somewhere in the middle. And at that point, we'd start assigning names to it. And what we'd do is we'd figure out who our top 20% were, and we'd highlight them. By calling them out our top 20%, we call them our A players, or at least that's what Jack recommended. Call them our A players. These are the people that we must have to keep the company growing in the right direction. And so every year you're put to task to be one of those top 20s. And the top 20s were well protected, well insulated, well rewarded. They had the best performance reviews, the best performance outcomes, and so forth. And at the same time, then, we'd also take a look at who the low performers were, and we call them our bottom 10%. And they would be our C people, the people that we probably look at and go, I don't know if there's any hope of keeping them, training them, making them better. If they didn't make it better during that performance period, they probably weren't going to work out. And then the rest we'd call our vital 70. And this was kind of our B players. These are the players that we've got to have. They're reliable. They come in, they do their work. They have potential, and they certainly aren't low performers. And so that was kind of the vital 70 because it represented 70% of our staff. And essentially, we bucket them into this A, B, C, and we'd understand that we had to make decisions based on the future value of the company, our future value of the company's talent based on this top 20 A performance, middle 70 B performers, or bottom 10 C performers. The unfortunate thing in Jack's world was the C performers typically didn't make it. He would suggest that you would cut out that 10%, and it didn't often mean that you'd lose those employees. It means that you would replenish them with what would be better talent. And then each year, everybody would compete again for the 20, 70, 10. And over a course of multiple times doing this, your bottom 10 would actually be pretty stable and good people, just not part of the top 90% you wanted to keep, thereby always driving your staff forward in the right direction. All right, so that kind of sums up the vitality curve. Leave me some comments, some questions if you got any. Bring them to class. That would be great. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.